For our opening prayer. Allow that sound as it fades to draw us deeper and deeper within our hearts, the center, the altar of God. Here we sit in silence and stillness, awaiting your presence, the Divine Mother of God, as you descend into our beings, igniting our core, our center in God, igniting us into remembrance of who we are. To this altar we place all that we are not, any form of limitation, any form of belief that we are mere mortals. We place all such erroneous thoughts. Lifted they are into your heart, into your consciousness, Divine Mother, Holy Spirit of God, and dispersed into the powerless nothings they are. And instead we ask that you activate our being. You activate our remembrance. Help us to see, feel, know the Christ light within ourselves and that same I am God presence within each other, this day and every day. And so it is.
Now please join me in reading our mission statement that you will find on the front of that prayer card. Together we say, the Global Center for Christ Consciousness is a spiritual center for students and masters on the spiritual path. We are dedicated to awakening the inner Christ and to creating a world of love, peace, joy, and abundance. And now for our sacred reading.
From White Eagle, God in you makes all things new. When you realize the Christ Spirit within, everything changes for you. For then you begin to see beauty instead of ugliness, love instead of hate, to realize health instead of sickness. The world becomes fresh and new, and when after rain, you can look out on the earth washed clean, shining with the sunlight. You can purify your own physical atoms by right thinking, right speech, right action, right living, judging no one. Then imperceptibly will come a raising in your consciousness, a happiness of which you have not dreamed, and a gracious and gentle power will grow within you, which will make all crooked places straight within you, and which will make all crooked places straight, and which will open your prison doors, even as the angel touched the doors of Peter's prison and set him free. And so it is.
Love White Eagle, a very Christy kind of teacher and material. And if you're not familiar, what he just shared, it's a moment where the Apostle Peter was imprisoned. And it's interesting because there's the external story, which is he's imprisoned and doubting his life, doubting his direction, and an angel appears and touches the door and it opens and he's free and walks on out, which is, like Jesus coming out of the tomb of death. In our own lives, it's much the same. We have to remember that the metaphors of life, that is, Lazarus come forth, or Peter come forth, or you or Jesus, come out of the past, come out of the tomb, come out of the belief in limitation, and so on. Don't assume that that's what I'm talking about today. I just said that. Can you tell me a few things you'd like me to talk about today?
Family rejection. Fear.
Attachment and aversions. Finances and root chakra.
Seeing the beauty in others, or strangers, or
What did you say over there?
Finances and root chakra.
Okay.
Single versus marriage.
Speaking of imprisonment, just kidding. For those of you watching online, fear and family and marriage and springtime and on and on. There's several things that they asked about. And springtime, that's a good one, which is so similar. Think about it. Peter coming out of the prison he was put in, coming out, rebirth, awakening, dealing with fears, and family too. Coming out like of the past. It's just this grand metaphor. Coming out of the past. I mean, we're sitting here, we're watching from long distance or local, and we're here, and we're thinking, a lot of times we assume we wake up in the morning and you have certain foods, and it's just taken for granted that that's what you have. Or you go and you listen to a talk, and it might be good, I don't know. Forgetting that we're holy beings on a journey to our awakening. So today, what did you eat or drink? Did it take you closer or further from that awakening? And you might think, well, it doesn't really have anything to do with it. Yes, it does. Anything that constricts the cells of your being might be a subconscious sabotage that we're doing to our awakening. Something that makes you feel too dense or heavy is not God. Therefore, it's the anti-Christ, so to speak. And I'm not saying shame yourselves for the things you do, but at least look at it. At least look at it to think, am I going in the direction of awakening? The things I listen to, the things I read, the friends I choose, habits, hobbies, and it's okay. I'm saying, you can say, well, I'm fairly cleaned up, but I still do such and such. It's okay. It's an interesting thing. This world will say, the things that you do the most determine who you are. Others will say, no, the emotions you feel the most determine who you are. And then another group says, no, the things you think about the most determines who you are. What did I just describe? Your lower three chakras. Doing, feeling, thinking. And it's just another ploy for the ego to trick you into identifying with one of those things. The things you think the most, the things you feel the most, the things you do the most. It still gives you human identification. The only truth to that concept of the thing you do the most is the only real identification is the one God gave you. I am a holy child of God. So really, the only way I can say something gives me my identity is not what I do, what I feel, what I think. It's God. What does God see me to be? What does God believe about me? Or what does God know I am? The Holy Christ. Jesus was called Jesus Christ, but it's actually Jesus the Christ. One who attained. It wasn't his last name. Aren't you John Smith? And Jesus Christ. And P.E. Christ, Jesus, here. No, it's Jesus the Christ. What is Christ? But the name of God in man. So Jesus who completely remembered the I am presence. Not affirmed it, not hoped, not wished for, not prayed for it. Completely remembered. So we've got lots of things in this world that will tell us who we are. You are in recovery. You are a smoker. You're a male, you're a female, etc. Or your family, since you asked about family. Identifications. I'm this family. You're their genetics. It's not easy for people to say, well, wait. Like the fable, the emperor's new clothes. To say, well, wait a minute. No, The emperor is naked, says the little boy, the only one that's going to be clear and honest enough to just say what's really there. And that's what we have to do to ourselves. Stop identifying with false sense of identity. In other words, drop your opinions and ask for God's instead. I think I'm this, I think I'm that. But show me, God, what do you believe I am? And don't ever think you can get away with that without being willing to see what others are. Because if you are willing to see the Christ in you, but not in others, it's not going to work. And even if you had a glimpse of it, it'll be removed, not by God for you being naughty. It's blocked from your own vision, because if you can't see it in others, you can't see it in yourselves. It's impossible. So, in this world, if you're watching a program like this, especially if you enjoy it, then you're probably what we would call a light worker. Okay? You're a light worker. Someone who, what does it mean? Who works to bring light. Who works to bring the presence of God, because God is the ultimate sense of light. So a light worker, it could be a single mom, it could be a corporate guy, it could be a person in a musical band. It's not a particular job description. It's not like you stand at a podium and that's what defines a light worker. Anyone, anywhere, is a light worker if they're choosing to anchor the light of God in the world. And, historically, we know them to be children of the One. From Lemuria, that was the term. Light workers in Atlantis, the children of light. Dakinis and Tantrikas of the Far East, and so on. There's different names, identifications. They can be, coming from any group, but it can also just be individuals. Especially today, individuals are called to be the light. I think it's a great symbol because you're holding space. You're holding light. A person who is metaphorically recognizing that they're a midwife to others, birthing them home. Not birthing them into the earth plane, but birthing them home. A spiritual midwife. And that's a light worker. You're holding space. You're holding light. Kind of like the hermit card, right? So you're holding the torch. And that's an old imagery, that we've carried for generations, carrying the torch, and that sort of thing. But light workers can come from any of those particular groups, or it can be individuals. So if you're watching a program, especially if you enjoy a program like this, watching it probably doesn't guarantee you're a light worker. It just check your tension level and annoyance level, and then you'll know whether I'm talking about you. If this is mostly annoying you, then change channels. But if you're going, yes, you can feel something, then you're a light worker. It's not like there's a special passage that, a membership or a card you get. You're a light worker because you're choosing to anchor the presence of God. Now, and there are different kinds of groups. Light worker. Even living like masters. There are some of us on this planet that, I can identify with a historic group, Atlantean, Lemurian, whatever else, masters of the Far East. But even the category of masters that are interacting with humanity, they don't have to be embodied to be light workers. There's groups called Ashtar Command. There's groups, some of them, wouldn't be as familiar to everybody, but one group of masters would be ascended masters, people who have awakened to a degree they do not have to incarnate again. Maybe you would think of it as a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. A Buddha or Bodhisattva is someone that didn't become root chakra, oriented, emotional chakra, intellectual chakra, heart chakra. You have to be heart-centered consciousness. I don't mean that if you go to an aura balancing person and they awaken your heart chakra, you're now an ascended master. I'm saying this has to be your overall consciousness. You have seen through it, or as Buddha said, I'm awake. If you think of the lower three chakras and think that you live there, just to use this quick metaphor, you're living down in the lower three chakras, and you go, I like this. This guy's talking about ascending. I'm going to be one of those. When you go to try to enter the heart, there's something in your body called the diaphragm, a muscular part of the body that says, no, you hit this membrane and it bounces you back, just like when you pass over in death and you're sent back. Human beings are part of the lower three centers, the wheel of life. You hit this thing called the diaphragm and it bounces you back, just like your guides do that on the other side. Hi, welcome. Oh, I'm ready to be all heart chakra. No, boom, diaphragm, spiritual diaphragm, boom, and back to earth you go. So you bounce on it the way like a drum head, except upside down. So you hit it, you bounce back, and you incarnate. There's a point where your tension level, judgment level, identification with lower self fades enough where this opens up and you become heart-centered. I'm awake. That's Moses. That's many masters have reached this point where they can become ascended masters. That's not yet Christ consciousness, believe it or not. But you have awakened. And Saint Germain and so many great beings, El Moria, that's this center here. It's another whole thing to move to the next level that's part of the triad of God. The Christ, that's another level. So we move, we live in this life, can become ascended masters. That's one level of mastery, ascended masters. Generally, they don't incarnate again. It can happen, but they generally don't. There's a faction of ascended masters that purposefully incarnate again, and that's why we call them bodhisattvas. But those are people that made it. They can live up in this level here. They can still have an effect on humanity from higher dimensions. It's a nice place to be in that level going, I'm not needing to come back. Good luck. But they'll whisper, a little of this and that in the mind and the consciousness. And some of them are profoundly still having an interaction with human beings, Kutumi and others, ascended masters. There's another level of masters. Again, group of light workers, different categories of light workers. One of them, I mentioned masters, so I'm just elaborating. A second category of masters are called immortals. That's the Saint Germain that reached ascended master level, but he also keeps incarnating or never dies. They're immortals. There's a handful of those, and they hang around. I mean, Saint Germain's a trip. There's people that met him throughout, history, actual records of him showing up every so often. There's a royalty. There's, annals of logs of royalty, diaries, and where they would meet him in court and parties and things, and he would show up. And this one particular royal says, this is an older woman, and she says, I recognize you. I think I might have known your father. Except he looked, a little older, but just slightly. But you look like a younger version of your father because he stayed young. And he said, that was me. And he would tell people everything that happened each time he showed up to confirm it was him. And when he talked, he spoke of things like he was there. This is just, I know it sounds like Highlander, but, it's just beautiful. But that's just another category. Then there's living embodied masters. They're not ascended permanently. They're not necessarily in body and immortal. They may have had a human birth and they may die. But they're living masters. These are people that choose to incarnate into a mortal life for whatever reason. What happens on the other side is even if you reach this high level of consciousness, it's kind of an organic thing, but it's sort of, we use a metaphor of having angels guiding you on the other side. Like, look, you can go in or you can help people from the astral plane or from the etheric plane or whatever. And it's kind of like when you reach that level of consciousness, what you always ask or say is, whatever is the greater good. That's what you do. You don't say, oh, I want this. You're beyond wanting. You're just like, how can I best serve? And that's the mind of a light worker. How can I best serve, But there's another group out of masters now, because there's masters are one category. Like I said, there's Dakini, there's of the East, there's mystics, all different categories of light workers. There's another category. Well, can I go for it? Yes. So there's a group, it applies to males and females, but mostly females. This group, just even talking to them, there's such a deep feeling. It brings up like emotion for me, but they're called the daughters of heaven. The daughters of heaven. I don't know that I've ever spoken about them, probably because they make me cry, but no. The daughters of heaven, there's such a deep feeling. Light workers are typically trying to help humanity go to God. The daughters of heaven are bringing God to humanity. You feel that? The daughters of heaven, and please understand, I don't want anybody to think, I want to be them, or it's okay. You're a light worker, so it doesn't matter which group. I'm an Atlantean child of light, or I'm a Dakini or whatever, because some of us know how to move in all of them. How to move and feel in all of them. I'm the type, for example, a light worker. Generically, we're all called light workers, but I'm the type that there could be a conference over here of people practicing sensual versions of being Dakinis and so on. And I can go into that place and talk about anchoring the presence of God instead of just bodies. I can go over to a Buddhist group and blend in. I can go over to this group, because that's when you know you're really, really holding it. You're not just one group. But there is this one group. It's very unique. Sons and daughters of heaven, but it's primarily females that gravitate towards this group. The daughters of heaven, just the name. It's not sons and daughters of God, as we find in the Bible, for example. Children of God, which is everyone. It's a specific group these people, they have such a reverence about them. They serve God, the Mother, Jesus. They serve that. They're not serving knowledge. They're not serving specifics of intellect. There's something in them. And if you're one of them, you'll hear what I'm describing. Often these women, and again, I'm not excluding men to this, it's more often women. I would say 8 out of 10 times it would be a woman. But they often wear scarves, whether it's a belt scarf, a shoulder scarf, or a headdress scarf. But then lots of people do, and they're not fitting this group, so don't assume that that's all literal. But there's this flow, and there's this countenance about them. It's love. But you can be one of these and not even be activated, meaning not even yet choosing to consciously know that you're one of them. But after today, you will. Okay? So these daughters of heaven, what a glorious name. To be in their presence, it's almost like you have to kind of block, a subconscious block to seeing that that's who they are. Because it will bring up emotion. You'll feel like you should kneel down and bow to them. Not because they're overtly seeming so angelic, but they're very angelic. There's a purity. They're not interested in three-dimensional garbage. They're into God and serving God. They're not interested in shallow relationships. Sadly, they would often even abstain from relationship because they don't know how to be this and do that at the same time. Because they don't even know this is happening. You see? But it's a very organic thing. So they're daughters of heaven, and it's really important that we call it that instead of daughters of Jesus, even though they're serving Jesus, Mary, and so on. Because church made us believe that level of association, you have to be taking vows of poverty and celibacy and so on. And that's not the case. So it's a very confusing life to live, to be a daughter of heaven. And I love that, daughter of heaven. It's like, this is making sense now. why I think the way I think, feel the way I feel. There's purity. You know, when children have described, Mommy, last night I saw an angel in my room. It's kind of like that. But you have to have the eyes to see it. You could be looking at one of these girls, these ladies, and not see it. But I'm telling you, the reason you don't see it is because you don't want to see it. Because their purity, their light will shine a little too brightly and you'll feel your own stuff, your shames, because you're in the presence of something that you don't understand. Because it's so beautiful. So being able to see that and just, wow, you know, it's nice. We don't want to make them better than anyone else. I love the light worker in anyone. And even when someone's not acting like a light worker and they're just acting like a jerk, it's really nice to know and affirm that in them is the presence of God. Everybody has it. But it is a little nice to see people that act like it. You know, it is a relief once in a while. You guys, in case you're not familiar, we just had this weird thing happen here in Sedona where all of a sudden they announced there's no fuel anywhere. So for 2 and 3 days, there was no fuel anywhere. And I'm hearing about it and I thought, well, you know, okay, I've got a half a tank, but just, I felt called. So I drove over to a gas station and, you know, to fuel up. And fortunately, a spot opened up and I just pulled in and, you know, and I'm like, what do they mean? There's put it, and it's like, click, click, you know, like slow. So it took 40 minutes to get half a tank of gas. So I'm sitting there and I'm pumping the gas, but then it's kind of interesting because you see other people pulling up and now you know what's happening and they don't. Click, they're like, huh, what's it? Bam, bam, kick, kick, you know, what's up? And you can explain it. Oh, did you know there's no gas in Sedona? And so you can get some, but it takes forever and a day. So next thing you know, because this is what light workers do, it's what we are, is you start helping. You let people know. Now people are getting in line and they're like sitting there because it takes a half hour to get, you know, I think it was you get 1 gallon every 10 minutes. That's the ratio that it was. And so some people are upset and they're in line. It's nice. I'm just walking around telling people, hi, you know, just letting you know there's no gas. Oh, well, thank you. And they could leave. And some were desperate. They were on their way to Phoenix Airport. No gas. Yeah. So 2 words for you, cotton wood. Go fuel up, you know. But what an amazing thing because nobody's helping them. Nobody's explaining and easing their burden. You see what I mean? That's light work. So I'm thinking, okay, well, and at some point I'm thinking, well, I mean, I can't just be here directing traffic. So I keep checking and my car's still, you know, waiting forever. As long as it's going, you know, then I have nothing to do. So I'll walk around and I'm walking around telling people, you know, this and that, advising, oh, yeah, cottonwood. Then it starts getting funnier. This wealthy older woman pulls up to the gas pump. She pulls back to the right. It takes her like 25 minutes to, you know, get in there, close enough to the pump. And that in itself was funny. She finally, you know, stops and then she gets out and I'm like, well, there's no gas in Sedona. I gave the speech, you know, but you can pump it, but it's going to take quite a while as long as you have the time, you know. And this woman, you know, wait a minute. Can you get in my car and tell me if I'm out of gas? And it starts getting funnier. Then I get this woman who's like, she's a middle-aged Russian woman. I need you to look because my car is out of gas and I need gas and there's gas. There is gas here. You know, it's okay. Okay, come with me. And she gets in her car and she pulls it to a parking spot. I'm supposed to go and inspect. My car, it's dripping gasoline. I go, that's because you overfilled it. I go, do you mind if we like use rags and soak it up and squeeze it into our gas tanks? Because you got 5 gallons on the ground, lady. But, you know, she's like, no, now my tires, they say in my car, they say out of gas. I go, well, no, it's the pressure. You know, it happens with cars. No, you're wrong. Because one it says is low, one it says is too high. I'm like, this is just funny. I don't work here. You know what I mean? Or do you? In the Bible, am I my brother's keeper? One of Adam's children says. How do you answer that? Yeah, kind of, As I heal myself, yes, but as I heal others. And as I heal others, I heal myself. So how can you be helpful? And it's just, you listen and you follow, and that's Lightworkers. You know what? How can I be helpful today? Wow, there's a lot of snow. Snow comes down, and it's kind of an interesting thing, but you drive, there's that big hill on that one end of town, and there's people trying to walk up that hill when we had a foot of snow. So, I got up that day and I drove down there and turned around and came back because I knew someone's going to be trying to get up that hill. And, I see somebody and, hey, do you want to ride? Are you kidding? Yes. They get in the car. Great. I'm not talking about being a rescuer, but a light worker. How can I bring light into your life today? Light workers are bringing, that presence. Like, let's help everybody rise. The daughters of heaven are bringing God to the earth. This presence they hold, this reverence they hold, this countenance of peace. It's really beautiful. It's kind of funny when I see these individuals because I see it and I know they haven't figured it out yet. And it's not a bad thing. It's not like you die and go to the other side and they go, well, you were a daughter of peace. That was a waste of our effort for you. Now you've got to be whatever, a child of darkness, No, there's no punishments and all that. The truth is, it's only fear that keeps us from seeing it in ourselves or others. And it is quite a reverence, quite a beautiful, reverent moment, because I can only see that in you if I'm willing to accept it in myself. So when I see it in you, I give thanks in here for me and for you, for holding that space. What an amazing thing, because these daughters of heaven have chosen to have more respect for themselves. They've chosen to be of higher integrity. They may have even strayed and then found this. It's not like you lived some chaste life, for your whole life, but you have decided to be that presence. What an amazing thing. Just, to me, it's, wow. No wonder, and some of you, if you're hearing this, if it applies, no wonder I hang out with friends, even spiritual, new agey friends, let's say, but I still feel different. I still feel a unique, and I'm afraid, some of you have said, I'm even afraid to tell even my spiritual friends that I feel close to Mother Mary, because it sounds very Catholic. Well, these are the daughters of heaven, not the daughters of church. Those who are real strong Mother Mary, they can tell the difference between my love for the Divine Mother. She's the embodiment of the universal Divine Mother. She's one that embodied that archetype, Mary. And she can say, I feel this real deep reverence for her. That might be a daughter of heaven, or generally a light worker. You'll know the difference when you feel guilty and ashamed, and often in bad moods, that it was just the past life as a nun. That's different. You might go, the daughters of heaven, that might be me. No, not necessarily. If you find that real hard-nosed religious kind of thing, it might just be a past life of a nun. And the reason I'm putting those next to each other is because they can feel similar in very general ways. They can feel similar. Is that making sense? Yes. Yeah. Don't confuse the remembrance of hyper-religious with what I'm describing here. This is a countenance. This is like, angels of ancient times that have visited man and given prophecies. They describe it, biblical and non-biblical sources. They describe there was this shining, glowing being. Sometimes those are light beings from other higher dimensions. That happens too. But you'll know which one, and you'll know whether you yourself have talked to light beings. They're light beings. They're all great. Angels, light beings, anyone serving the light. There's beauty and greatness to them and their purpose on earth. And, because one of you asked about family and one of you asked about marriage and so on, it's an interesting thing because you can be married and never married, but you got married because of tradition or whatever else, or even because of family. But you realize you're not the marrying type, not because you're playing around. You're not the marrying type because you're already married. Your soul is already tethered to God. And that creates a real contrast inside when you're trying to do normal husband-wife kinds of things, the daily stuff, and yet you feel this reverence connection to God. It can be really awkward. And I suggest that even if you're married, you can say, I am married and I love you. If that's the case, great. But to say, and yet I'm recognizing a very deep devotion I have to God. Now they're going to hear that means you're going to become celibate and you're going to, deep devotion, you're probably going to India or, because that's what human beings do. They get this inspiration and they act on it. Usually the action is a mistake because you're taking a feeling and giving it a form. Just enjoy the feeling. I am. So I got to go. You don't have to go anywhere. Oh, no. Peruvian temples. I'm on my way. No. Shh. Just, Oh, ayahuasca. Here I come. Stop. Enjoy the feeling. When Jesus met with people, what was his most common greeting? Peace be with you. Or my peace. He's saying, let my consciousness be with you. That's profound. He didn't say, hey, ayahuasca time. He didn't say, hey, let's do some shrooms. He didn't say, hey, are you religious? No, he didn't say any of those. Peace now bestowed upon you. Let my peace be with you. And it's not religious. It's a feeling. Even one of the apostles saying, I'm struggling with a physical pain. Jesus told him, let my peace be enough. He said, Jesus, can you fix this problem? Let my peace be enough. If you have the peace and presence of God, you would have everything else. Stop asking for stuff. Stop doing stuff. Enjoy the feeling. How? Shh. Take time. Soak it in. Feel it. If I say something or if you're reading a book and there's a line that's said that's like, boom, don't start with the gears inside. Just don't worry about memorizing what was said because I don't. I say these things and then they ask me later, Michael, what's the title of the talk? What did I say? I mean, honestly, it's true. I mean, it's not like a gimmick. I honestly have to sometimes go back and watch the video to see what I said to know what to give them for a title. It's not because I'm dissociated from it. It's because I try not to get in my head about it. I just, wow, that was nice. What a nice feeling, you see? It's nice to learn to be in the feeling. When Buddha was asked, can you describe heaven? They say he held his finger to his lips like this. Like as soon as I start speaking about it, you lose the experience. Be still and know the I am presence of God. Feels because something wonderful is happening. Those daughters of heaven, there's a feeling, there's a countenance, and there's a feeling. If you have eyes to see, heart to feel, there's a nice reverence. And if you think, I wish I was one and you're not, it doesn't matter. Be a light worker because they're just light workers. So are light beings, so are angels. We're all doing light work. What category doesn't matter, but I'm still choosing to refer to this particular category for some reason. One, because I don't think it's ever been talked about. It's not to be confused, as I said, with biblical sons and daughters of God. Daughters of heaven. And even saying heaven, that title, saying heaven instead of God and so on, is because it hasn't been pinned down yet. It hasn't been boxed like it's a group. A label. It's a feeling. I'm serving all of heaven. And therefore, I'm particularly in service to God. Therefore, I'm particularly feeling close to the Divine Mother. You know, your friends expect you to have only icons in your house of a particular type. And yet you can sometimes feel awkward having imagery of Jesus or Mary because of what Christianity became. Not all Christians, but as a religion. Religions are messed up. And don't dare think it's only one of them. Religion is always getting hyper organized. It has politics involved. It gets a little heavy. Underneath it, God. The organization of it, not. When people say to me, well, this is a wonderful center, can we open satellites of it? No. No. I'm not interested in that kind of thing. Ambition. We need to have 10 by the end of this year. Send in your donations because we want to open one of these in South Timbuktu. You know, no. Just us here experiencing this. People like it, they tune in, they find this, and we experience something. Nobody ever, even St. Francis said, I was told to build a church. That's what he was told. And he built a church, right? And then it became an order, the Franciscan monks and so on. And they're the ones who ended up, one of the groups that ended up, for example, kidnapping a mystic, St. John of the Cross, and putting him in prison to hide him because he was too good. They're like, well, we don't have the experience he's having. Let's kidnap him and torture him daily. So they're Franciscan. What happened to the birds? You know, and wildlife. You know, St. Francis, you know, he's in your garden. He's in your garden and you have a statue and he's got birds, you know, all loving him because he's so pure. Well, followers don't end up staying that way. Even the apostles of Jesus said a few weird things, did a few weird things. One of them not allowing a woman to become initiated into their group, you know, and so God initiated her. You know, how do you question that? And when it came to St. Francis, I'm being told we have to build a church. He built a church. That's not what he was told by God. What he was told by God is bring life back to the church. Not the church, but the message. Bring life back. And what did his head here? We need bricks. That's what we do. We organize and structure things that are actually inspirations. I remember meeting an artist who said, I do paint. I get feelings and visions and I paint. But the paintings, Beethoven said this too, Mozart said this too. The music and the art never completely matches what I'm seeing, which can cause a lot of angst inside because you're angry all the time that it's never quite right. And that's the typical thing. It's never enough. It's never quite right. And this is a test for you. You're supposed to be able to say, but it's as close as it can be for today. Yeah. And that's fine. Why am I not just standing here holding space? Everybody just get it. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, I still need lips and vocal cords because some people need that to hear me. So use your hands, use your eyes, use your ears, use your actions. We're light workers, here to make a difference. It's okay that your art doesn't quite do it. That's just you finding fault with something that was divine, and now you've ruined it. By judging it not holy enough, you've ruined it. So the angst of some of these great artists, Mozart and such, or as this painter was saying, and I love the way he pulled this off because he said, what I do is instead of, something else just came, wow. Yeah, so instead of trying to paint with standard pigments, he made his own new pigments because it was closer to the ones he could see. And this you would call painting with not pigments, but with light. Make light pigments. Make sounds with your voice and or like light language. You don't have to. Well, the only pure thing is silence and then God. Therefore, it's not even worth painting. It is, because some people still have eyes that want to see the painting with those eyes and want to hear the sounds you can make. You still bridge the actions. the holding presence. And Saint Germain actually, because he was, wow, what a funny and great being. He was actually speaking to royalty, and he would say, I do not die. I live forever. Show us how you live show us some evidence. And he would literally do things. He would give me some metal, some crude metal, lead, and he would turn it into gold. Now, I'm not saying that the magic tricks, as it were, not that they were magic tricks, but it's not the magic tricks that are the magic, that are the point. It's not manifesting gold that makes you Christy. But he was an immortal, and he understood many things, and he was a master. Mastery, you start to not just hear sounds like Mozart, you start to figure out how to bring them forward. Hearing them might only lead you to being a frustrated person. How can I help today? These sounds come to you and you're like, but there's no instruments that can do that. Do the best you can. See, God's not like, fine. See if I send you any sounds ever again. It's, no, shh, honey, translate them. Like I'm standing here translating, as I'm speaking. Translate them. Use the best means you have. Just try it. Just risk it, because there's no risk. Let it happen. And then it comes through. And you might find that your painting today is smiling at more people. And it might be with brush and oil or watercolors or whatever. To be a light worker. And some of us, it's sensuality. Because it's not supposed to have been interpreted as children of church, daughters of the church, which, oh my God, so uptight. Can you imagine the real presence of God? If it manifested in some convent somewhere, especially of older days, where everything's so rigid, priests and nuns, just imagine what could really have happened if they allowed Christ to come forward and be there. Okay, we accept you really are. We can tell you really are the Christ. What would you have us do? Become more uptight. You think Jesus would say that? No. He'd say, loosen it up, Wilma. Loosen the bone, Wilma. Take off your clothes. Dance naked. Oh my God. Crucify him. Which is what they would have done. Start just dance and feel. Do you feel the presence of God? I do. They would start channeling. They would start doing light language. They would start glowing and laughing and giggling and crying. All the pent up stuff that now has taken them another 10 lifetimes to try to work on. 10 lifetimes later, they start loosening the tie. It took 60s hippies to show them an alternative. And they had to judge the heck out of them for a while. Probably then having to come back another lifetime with, all your children are hippies to try to teach you not to judge hippies. Jeez. So, serving the consciousness of God and in mankind, that's the presence of Christ. Our remembrance is the second coming of Christ. Our remembrance of who we are. The daughters of heaven are trying to bring that in their way. But what I like about them particularly is the presence they're holding, not the things they're doing. So they're a little bit more, just this presence, flowy, just this countenance of peace. Because they're holding something very beautiful. And again, it's not what color they wear. It's not that you have to try to be one of them. Be who you are. On one day in particular, I'm a son of heaven. Other days, I'm something else. As one apostle says, I'm all things to all people. So I'm the type that will just navigate into whatever form of light work I need to do today. Today I need to teach. Tomorrow it's advice for a screenwriter for a movie, something else. I just kind of morph into whatever is needed in the moment to just be the highest you can be in the moment. But there is definitely, and etheric kinds of beings, there's fairy folk, some incarnated into bodies. I can see those things. I can see when someone's from the Andromeda system, someone's from ancient Lemuria. I can tell who's who and what's what. And I love it all. I think it's fun and beautiful. You know, you see somebody doing certain things I won't describe in Atlantean, typical Atlantean. You know, it's so funny. Oh yeah, Lemurian. You can just tell and feel it. What system people are predominantly from, right? And you realize what's most important is not being able to spot it, but the common theme, going home, remembrance. Human beings are uptight about the fact that our days are numbered. It's all going to come to a close soon. A major shift is coming. And human beings are wanting to pretend it's not happening or becoming terrified. That's the two reactions for humans. I'm going to control it, or becoming terrified by it. And ironically, their terror is because they realize they can't control it. You cannot control the timelines. This is happening now. Well, can't we stop it? Stop what? Why would you want to stop it? Well, devastation. No, the devastation is just birth pains. We're going home. And some people are like, no, I don't really believe that. And that's the old school students or intellectuals. I'm not putting down academics, I'm saying that's the choice of denial for people that come from old school spirituality or old systems, I should say, traditions, or some from, more of an intellectual style. They say, oh, no, the stuff that's happening in the world is just normal cycles. It isn't. But you'd like to think so because you feel safer, pseudo safety in thinking. It's just normal. There is no real, issue, global warming. Not really happening. It is. Imbalances, greater and greater and greater imbalances, because the earth needs to shake off the garbage that's been put onto her. So it's one big cosmic sneeze. She'll sneeze, but it's different. When you sneeze, there are bacterias and stuff. You blow out your nose when you sneeze. Well, it's different when the earth sneezes. There's people that tend to blast off the planet. Earth changes, and whatever else. So it's not just another day. And if you want to believe it, it's just another day. It's just another. I like the fact that these daughters of heaven, they can see it. Lightworkers should be able to see it, but not all do. See and accept. The daughters of heaven realize we're going home. They can feel God calling, I love you, come home. And they're just, how can I serve for that to happen? How can I be of service? And they're often holding space more than preaching, teaching. Not that they can't do the latter. So this is all changing. We would like to think that Jesus was just another teacher. But there's a reason why you need him to be just another master. Because if he was the Christ and triggered that awakening in you, you are also the Christ. And you don't want to be. Is that God in you saying, I don't want to be? No, your ego's rampant. It dresses it up in intellect. It dresses it up in, oh no, Jesus was just another what? No. He was the first to completely awaken and remember the Christ. Why did Muhammad say, I saw an image in a vision where all the masters and teachers and prophets of the past, like on a ladder, pyramid-like ladder, and at the top was Jesus? Why did Buddha get asked, are you the Savior? No, I'm just awake. And say, there's one coming in the future from the land over there, light-skinned, etc. How come Buddha said that? How come ascended masters refer to his master name as Sananda as the master of masters? Guys, wake up. He's not just another anything. He's not just another, it's like a pyramid. In a pyramid, you've got different groups of people. You can say, well, here we've got human beings, unawakened. And then higher up the ladder, you have more like awakening people. But as you move up the ladder, it keeps going. Then you've got, mastery at some levels that I described, light workers, up above the masters at a higher level. It's kind of cool. And as you go up the ladder, and before the capstone, that's Christ. We only had awakened masters, great, great masters. The concept of Krishna is, in a sense, Krishna consciousness was an image of where you could be. This is your ultimate destiny, the presence of God here and now. But it hadn't been attained by a person. Jesus woke up. He became this, up the ladder like you and me, up the ladder till you get to the very top, ascended master level. But he didn't stop there. He said, I'm going to go back, the bodhisattva of bodhisattvas, I'm going to go back and I'm going to live it from birth to death and rebirth. He came back and demonstrated, because everybody else died. Buddha died. Muhammad died. Moses, they all died. Masters or not, guys, sorry, they did die. And Jesus didn't. He's the only one. He resurrected himself. Pretty cool trip going on there. And the reason he did it was, as he's passing away, it is accomplished. Means many things, but one of them is, from birth till death, I held the presence of Christ consciousness. I did it. And now he fades, he's put in a tomb and it's thought that he died. But yet he can say, okay, done, and wake back up. Now, some people are saying, there's writings in the Quran, there's writings, lost books of the Bible that says, and there's points in there that say Jesus didn't really die. And then they go, ooh, it's a secret. He really just took an herbal formula. And then and they thought he was dead. Really? What about the punctured heart and pericardium? He didn't take an herbal formula. You remember when they said, and they put a sponge and liquid up for him to drink from? We think that might have been when they secretly, come on, people. You just don't want to own that you're God. And you're making it Jesus was just another guy. So that you don't have to accept that he was Christ, which also means now you are. It was a sponge. I need to believe it was a sponge of herbal something. You see? He just went on a trip. And then they gave him, Kool-Aid. Then they gave him the antidote when he was in the tomb. And he woke up. It was a trick. And I'm just saying, that's because people need to believe something that limits us instead of the absolute truth of God. So he did die, but there's a secret to the message. Why the Quran and other sources saying something along the lines of that he didn't really die. It's because you can crucify Jesus but not Christ. You can't kill Christ. Jesus himself in the lost books of the Bible are telling the apostles, don't bother looking at the corpse on the cross. I'm here. I'm alive. He appeared in his light body to them. I'm not there. When he says to Mary, Magdalene, and others, where are you going? We're going to see our master. He's buried in the tomb. He's not in there. It wasn't just telling him factually he wasn't in there. He was saying, why are you looking for life in a place of death? You know who he was. He can't be dead. All of this is just profound. It's too much to go into right now, but profound. To really soak in the truth of God. And it isn't just Jesus. I'm definitely not pushing fundamental Christianity on anyone. Christ as a consciousness. All the things I have done, you will do and more. That's what I'm talking about. Family has a box they want you to be in. You asked about that. Marriage has a box that you need to fit into to be appropriate for certain people. And then there's you and God. Don't get a divorce and blame God for it. Sorry, honey. Even though I'm secretly thinking, you just don't do it for me. I'm going to just blame God. I'm feeling guidance. Hold on. Yep, that's God, all right. And God's saying, you need to move out, leave me the money, and never call me again. I mean, can't you see that's a little convenient? Really? You're going to put that on God? But if you would like to believe that this is just another era, another cycle of life, you would actually you'd be claiming the Mayans, who were called the earth, the timekeepers, they're wrong. Hopi, Hopi prophecy is telling us this is the time where Great Spirit takes both hands, not one as in previous prophecies of the Hopi, both hands and will shake the earth. It's happening now. You'd be saying, well, I don't believe in that. So the Hopi are wrong. The Mayans are wrong. The Jewish timelines of the cycles of Jubilee, no, that's mistaken too. Book of Revelation, the Bible. People who have had near-death experiences and said, oh my God, I was told what's coming. No, they're all wrong. Doesn't it start to sound a little convenient at some point? Everybody's wrong. Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, they're all just wrong. Why did they all say the same thing? This is the end of time. Something major. Even Jesus in A Course in Miracles, a book about love. And he still slips in, yeah. Wow. Yeah, love, forgiveness, but wow. You know, he tells the Channel Helen, the world is worsening at an alarming rate. And he says, we need to do something. He even told her, this course, this thing you and I are doing, Helen, we're supposed to have done this in your next lifetime. But we don't have time. I need you to do the course or some major thing, download for humanity, sooner than you expected, which is why you're feeling so unsettled about receiving the course. So I'm going to close with leaving that with you in the sense that your spiritual path, and you feel like, I could have been a light worker sooner had I known all this. I've done that to myself. I did this early. I was into this in high school. And some days I still think, dang, I should have got it sooner. And that's not God. That's just fault finding. Yeah, but if I would have only, the people I wouldn't have slept with. Wow. The drugs I wouldn't have done. Whatever's in your head, that's going to be where you go. There's the marriages I shouldn't have done, or whatever. That's not God. I would have been a vegan from the beginning. I would have never dated. And that's just the nun talking, man. It's okay. Every bizarre thing you did that seems out of congruence with what you now know is now going to, when surrendered, will be recycled into helpful hints for others that you run into today. Just let it be that. It's true. I don't care what you've done. No matter what you've done. Mass murderer. I found Jesus. And it's going to teach you exactly. Somehow someone out there is going to be needing to hear you from your angle of how you woke up. Doesn't matter. No one is hopeless. No one is beyond awakening. But you will resist that awakening extra so if you don't realize that there's nothing so horrible about you. It's okay. Misdirected is all I was. And now I get it. Getting it now allows all this to be recycled, and I'll bring it to the world in another way. The man who shot John Lennon wasn't just trying to murder John Lennon. He was trying to be what he wasn't. Had he known how to be that thing that he idolized in another, he couldn't have harmed the other. He did it because he knew not how to integrate that in himself. I will take from you what I do not see in myself. That's a molester, a murderer, a rapist, and so on. Those are people, they know not what they do. And you know why they know not what they do? Because they know not who they are. Lightworkers, we don't justify any of these things. We just simply say, and how can I be helpful today? In whatever the situation is. How can I be helpful today? All the world knows, on some level, time as we know it is expiring. But it means time, which is an illusion. It means illusions are expiring. And that can only happen in one of two ways, the easy way or the hard way. Humans tend to go the hard way. But we can affirm the easy way. Lightworkers, they affirm, they know, they insist to know there is but the light of God, even despite what seems to be. We don't pretend what seems to be isn't happening. We just know that despite what I see, there's another way of looking at this. There's another way of seeing this, another way of experiencing this. So we don't look for ways to run and hide and deny our obligations and whatever on planet Earth, but it changes the way we do them, changes the way we think about them to be a light worker. Okay? Please take a few centering breaths. Calming and centering. Step out of the head, the opinions of life. We set aside all that is unlike the presence of God. A slightly paraphrased quote from Scripture. You are all children of God when you recognize your identification with the Christ. When you are baptized, born again in Christ, you've then become part of the Christ. In the Christ, there's no Jew nor Gentile. There's Jew nor Greek. There's not even, it says in the Bible, not even male or female. There's no slave, worker, or CEO, employer. There's no duality. Because in Christ, you're all one. Soak that concept in. Say to yourself, I am that I am. I don't need to actually take on identifications. It's okay to be a woman or a man, that's fine. Black or white, that's fine. But it's not my identification. What color am I? Light. What gender am I? Light. I am, as Christ, I am the light of the world. And as the light of the world, where I go, I bring the light to the world. In this sacred and holy moment, which any of us, each of us and any of us are well permitted to say, no thank you, and just keep our smallness. We're allowed to do that. Free will. But if we're willing to do so, just hear this. I am the light of the world. Not my human self. God within me is the light of the world. And I'm asking you, Holy Spirit of God, to lift the veils. Buddha said, heaven is all around. You have to lift the veils to see it. So I'm here now, Divine Mother, asking you, lift the veils from my consciousness and let me receive from you an activation to be generically a light worker, to be a child of light, or even to be a daughter of heaven. If it's what I am, open my mind to it and let me feel the activation. Generally, a good light worker, which makes me a better parent, a better cook, a better lover, a better human being. But if there's something that needs specificity, like daughter of heaven, let it be. Let the veils drop and let me feel. It might be a dakini. Whatever it is, let me begin to embody this more. I am as you've created me to be. Let me dance, let me smile. Let my life reflect the flow of being one with God. The holy breath of God breathes down. We resuscitate breathing life into a mouth. This is the breath of God through the crown, shining itself down so brilliantly and thoroughly. All that is unlike it begins to dissipate. Cells of the glands, the body, the musculature, etc., just shines away. This is a moment of pure reverence, sacredness. I see you. The light of God, I see you. And whether I'm a light worker that believes in all masters were the same, nobody's awakened and so on. No, not today. I get it. Love and gratitude to you, ascended masters, angels, light beings, all human beings that have ever sought the light at the end of the tunnel during the dark night of the soul. I stand at that light at the other end, beckoning you forward. I call you, come home. God awaits. God loves you. Whether the dark night was a divorce, a job loss, death, or death of loved ones, come forward. I stand on your behalf. We are as God created us, and we are the Christ on earth. And when I sometimes wear a scarf over my head or any other headdress in any lifetime, it was symbolic of me saying, I want nothing else entering my mind but God. It was a symbolic barrier, a healthy one. But with or without the scarf, the affirmation remains. I choose nothing else but thoughts of God. The thoughts of God are not solemn. They make me desire to dance, to smile, to be, to play. I give thanks, Divine Mother, that even in this lifetime or other lifetimes when I have forgotten who I was, that you never forgot. Thank you for remembering me when I forgot. Now, I merely ask you help me to see this in others as well. And in this, we are all awake. And so it is. Good. Those of you who are watching online, someone was just channeling over here. If you heard, they were channeling the Master Canine. Not Kutumi, but Canine. Thank you very much. I pray this worked and felt right for you. We're going to, in a moment, take up our collection and then do our closing prayer. This should only take a couple of minutes. Let me ask you first, what did you hear or learn today that made the most sense for you? Can anyone share? Just brief sentence, yes?
Seeing through.
Seeing through?
Seeing through.
Nice. Seeing through the veil? Yes?
Not wanting, let go of wanting and doing.
Let go of the wanting, doing, and allowing, yes.
Daughters of heaven.
Daughters of heaven.
They walk the earth.
Daughters of heaven are real and walk the earth. How can I be helpful? The importance of, that's the prayer, man, to start the day. Here I am. which leads to, what would you have me do? Yes.
Not judging creativity and allowing it to come naturally.
Not judging creativity and just allowing it to come naturally. Yeah.
I'm an 11-year-old granddaughter who I believe is probably her future involves being a daughter of heaven.
Whoa.
She's like a super achiever academically in sports. And when I talk to her mother says that she is like super concerned with everyone.
Wow.
And she says, I don't quite understand it. So my words to her are, well, she's special, something special about her.
Yeah. You have it's a granddaughter, you said?
Yeah. she's
A
11.
granddaughter that feels like that, has that light worker kind of mentality. Beautiful. Yes.
It's okay not to have a label.
Yeah, it's okay to not have a label, especially the world's labels, the world's version of labels. Absolutely. It's quite all right. Yes.
Michael, how many daughters of heaven do you believe there are on planet Earth? Just roughly. I mean, are we talking hundreds, thousands, millions?
Hundreds,
Hundreds.
thousands, not millions. How many are there on the earth? The daughters of heaven. Yeah. Yeah, it's in the thousands and not in millions. Yes.
I was overjoyed to see that and hear the music this morning because, like St. Francis, in a way, I was asked to build a healing center in
Ah.
my hometown of Mystic, Connecticut. And I used that song as the doorbell.
Whoa. You were guided to build a center in Connecticut.
Yeah, I've been it for 11 years. I turned my entire house into
Nice.
the healing center. And that, when I heard that song, I really just wanted to cry.
Wow.
I've been it for 11 years and I didn't want to leave it, but I
Not right. She's referring to the song we played before service for the people watching online. We played Age of Aquarius. And that was just decided like a second before I came up to start the service. Yeah. It wasn't, Judy asked John, how about let's do this one? I won't name it, but another one. And that one he didn't have prepared or whatever. And he gave a call out of here's a half dozen choices we could do. And as soon as he named that one, I said, that's it. And we did it. And it ends up fitting what we're describing, and it ends up a miracle for you, kind of connecting your theme song for your center. What's the name of your center?
It was called the Mystic Gathering Center in Mystic, Connecticut, and now here I have Sedona Mystic Gathering Center, which is tiny, tiny.
So the one you had in Connecticut, you moved to Sedona.
I did.
And it's called again?
The one in Connecticut?
Here.
Sedona Mystic.
The Sedona Mystic Gathering Center. I'm saying that so people around the world can hear about it. And,
Thank you.
yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Lightworkers sticking together. Okay? So, just the meditation or the concept of daughters of heaven. Any feedback on either of those? Yes?
I was grateful to hear about that idea because I have felt in the last year there's been an internal shift in me to being more willing
Yeah.
to step into that.
Nice. Step into the light work or the daughters of heaven. Nice. See, you have a part of you that was a nun in an old lifetime. No offense. But you have the old school, and when you said, I feel called to rebirth, you're just kind of upgrading the devotion you once had in one form to this other. But what's interesting to me is, was being a nun actually a call to being a daughter of heaven that you grounded in a form that seemed normal for the time? You see? Right? You get that? Yeah, baby. Yeah.
The meditation was brilliant. It was empowering, enlivening. I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank you. The meditation. Brilliant, enlivening, and so on. Love it. Yes?
In your discussion of the daughters of heaven, I think every woman in this world, in this room, needs to consider themselves a goddess. Which they
Yeah.
are.
Right. Right.
Every man is a god also.
Right. Jesus himself saying, have you not heard that you are gods and goddesses? I mean, himself saying that, it's important. He didn't give this. You are a sinful worm that religion say that he says. I mean, my God, all that I've done, you have done and more. You are children of heaven. You are sons and God, daughters of God. Amazing what he told us. And yet it gets turned around into some weird translation or misinterpretation, which is because people are twisted. Twisted minds create twisted interpretations. Anything that leaves out love is twisted. Somebody turned it. Whether it was 1 degree or 180, it's twisted. Why would that be? It's too much for me to bear, to believe that I'm a holy child of God. You could say, oh, the world does this to us. And why is that? How come you're not breaking free of the trance saying, I don't buy it? The world, it's a conspiracy. They make us believe little. You can say no. It's convenient for enslaved souls to live an enslaved life. When can we say free at last, free at last? Thank God Almighty, we're free at last, breaking the spell. With that comes a dance, yes.
Well, it's affirming and freeing, but it also just generates this energy that makes me cycle like a water wheel. And when I'm free in that, it flows freely.
Beautiful.
But when I start conforming again, then I shut it down. And so it's how to really keep that.
Right. When you conform, it shuts it all down, but you can see it and feel it. And it has happened where you can feel this free flow movement like water pouring through you. You're very welcome, dear. Very welcome. Yes.
I believe there's also sons of light,
Yes.
daughters of heaven.
Yes.
And that whole synergy and balance and how that works together within us.
Right.
Is bringing that heaven down to earth.
Right. It's interesting because the concept of sons of God doesn't mean males. There's another group of Lightworkers. They're called the Great White Brotherhood. First of all, they're not white. Second of all, they're not brothers only. It's really the great brotherhood, sisterhood of light. But the wording fit the people at the time. But that's what it really is. And so, but I have to say, there are certain times and movements happening in the world where it seems like more male leaders gravitate toward one. Like, let's say, children of God, sons of God. It has a male energy. Many ascended masters were males at first. But what I like, and try to understand this from where I mean it to come from, the daughters of heaven didn't care that the ascended masters were all too often, majority of the time, males. Don't think that left out women. The daughters of heaven didn't care because they're daughters of heaven. I'm an ascended master. I'm a daughter of heaven. I don't care. You know what I mean? There's almost a higher consciousness, the achievement of mastery. A daughter of heaven. Like if I could push a button and be one there, I'd go daughter of heaven. Yes.
Just something in my recovery that helps me to stay focused is what I resist persists.
What I resist persists. If we resist this notion, please, I'm not pushing in religion. Jesus is unique because he went all the way. The capstone is Christ or God. I'm not a master at the top, the flat part waiting for the pyramid cap. That's mastery. The last couple stones at the top, here's all the sleeping people. Grow, 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 grow. Ascended masters. Wow, isn't that amazing? Yeah, but there's one more. Boom. That went from ascended master heart chakra into the throat center, which is the Christ center. The center of the I am. Are you the Christ? They asked Jesus. His answer, I am. Perfect answer. Some people think it's an intellectual response. Yes, I am. No. He says, I am, which is the I am in me is the Savior. The I am in me is the Christ, and so on. Okay, last one or two. You had a hand up. Yes.
I really appreciate the ascended canine master part of the meditation.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad that you folks enjoyed and appreciated the meditation. I want more often folks to give feedback about that because it helps integrate the experience and not just the talk. Please stand for our closing prayer. Oh, yeah. 2 weeks in a row. Please join me in the prosperity prayer. Together, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. While they're passing the baskets, a couple quick things for you all. First, we're organizing for our website a directory. In other words, so that when people often call and the staff members, they're having to rush around trying to figure out when people are calling and asking for referrals. Do you know of a good realtor? I don't want to just have everybody tossed out there with, hey, good luck. If you need to find something significant, an Airbnb, if you have one, let us know. We'll post it. If you are a supporter here, we want to support you. So if you own a restaurant, we'd be happy to try to put that on our list. Realtors as well. If you attend here and you're a realtor, we want to, because I'm telling you, consistently people come here looking for houses. I'd rather them have you as their realtor than just start driving around hoping to find something, and sometimes they don't. Okay, last couple announcements. Remember that the chaplains are available for a healing circle after the service. There's crystal bed therapy, crystal bed sessions. You just lie under the chakra-aligned crystals in the healing room yurt outside. If you'd like to check that, I would highly recommend it. If you're on social media, like us, friend us, and whatever, Remember, here's the bottom line. Don't tell people you should have a session with Michael. Don't. Tell them what I do and see if they're interested. Don't tell your mother-in-law about this center. Okay? Tell her what you do. If she feels called, let her look. But don't recommend people, because you often assume that they're of this, and they might, especially if they're coming from a really rigid, religious kind of thing, they might just become angry at you. So you don't need to push people. There's a general saying, if you like us, tell your friends. If you don't, tell your enemies. Okay? You get that? See, the psychics, they never laugh at the jokes. You know why? Because they're laughing at the next one. Get it? They always, because they're so psychic. Never mind. Next Sunday, March 26th, 12 to 3, I'll be presenting a workshop myself on advanced skills in spiritual counseling. It's not to be a counselor. It's advanced skills in spiritual counseling, which is learning about boundaries, healthy boundaries, relationships, communication. It's for us to live better lives. You can see more information about it on our website. And Thursday, March 30th, Athena Tree and Nico Light will join together their gifts to create an interdimensional realm experience with music. Through vocal synthesizers, piano, handpan, and violin, they build electro-symphonic music and celestial sound tour experiences with visual creations inspired by shamanic work in Sedona to channel the highest good for all. This event will be live streamed for everybody around the world as well as in person here, so join if you can. All right, please stand for our closing prayer. When I talked about Daughters of Heaven, besides hearing it, did you feel something with that? Isn't that cool? Yeah, I love it. Thanks for letting me share that. I don't think I've ever talked about it, and I know I've never heard anybody else talk about it. You're welcome. You're welcome. Gratitude, presence. Thank you, Lightworkers, who have chosen to step up and bring the light of God. All time, all traditions, all continents. Lightworkers that are religious and non-religious, because it's light work. Can't be named or stuck to one group. Lightworkers throughout all time, thank you. Your decision to be who you are has brought us all forward. And thank you, Daughters of Heaven. The light of God surrounds us.
We are the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
We are the love of God.
The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Thank you.